These episodes of the Sit Down podcast are brought to you by Funky Moose Records. It is an online record store. We sell new and used records. We also sell the cleaning supplies, the sleeves, and we have merch on our website for bands and artists.
That's right. So go to funkymoose.com. No.
Or do funkymooserecords.ca.
That might be better. And just go snoop around in there, you guys. Check it out. Right on. So are you familiar with this show at all?
I've watched it. I haven't watched a full episode, to be honest, but I keep watching all your guys' clips and stuff and see who you guys have on. And
right.
I'm relatively familiar.
I want to know everything you'll tell us. You know what I mean? I want to know. I want to know like who you are, who you play with, who you've recorded with. I want to keep the conversation on the music side.
Your credit card information.
Your credit card number.
All right, my name's Graham Templeman. I'm a drummer. This is episode 95 of the Sit Down podcast.
This episode of the Sit Down podcast is sponsored by Inspired Vapor Company. Those guys are out there. They're out there to help you quit smoking and transition into vaping. We all know that cigarettes are bad for you. So go to their website, inspiredvaporcompany.com, and if there's anything there that you guys like, use promo code MOOSE10 for 10% off. Right on.
And I'm Mark. Hi.
Hi, Mark. How's it going? And Joel. It's not Joel. It's Joel.
It's Joel. But yes, Joel. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, you betcha. So
where did you grow up?
Or hey, dickwad. That
dickwad. I actually, so not to get into too much detail, I grew up in Saskatchewan. Here I graduated out of St. Louis, just a little south of Prince Albert.
Absolutely. Richard Pelon.
Yeah, you bet, man. We used to keep his horses back in the day.
No shit.
When he would go out and go play in New York, he would drop his horses off in our yard, and we'd keep them for the winter.
Nice.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
You're allergic to horses.
That's how I found out I'm allergic to horses.
Oh, okay.
Overexposure.
Yeah, you betcha.
Fucking
so him and we met it was the night we went to the Hour Hand in Saul.
I was there.
So, and I was like, I was looking at Mark because I noticed your hat that night. So I almost want to credit Robert Paul Champagne for connecting the two of us together. For those of you who don't know, it's okay. It's okay. You don't need to know.
So we were standing or sitting side by side, and he was zooming in on something, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
I was trying to get a picture of your hat, right?
And then he shows me, "Look at this." I'm like,
I was like, a fellow mommy.
What the hell is that? Yeah. He's a mommy. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Sure. He had no fucking clue what was going on. So then I came up to you after, and I was like, fucking nice hat, bro. And I don't even think we talked that much because you had to go up on stage right away. But then I hit you up on socials after that. So
yeah, well, it totally boggled my mind because like I've been showing my friends your mom's house for a couple years now, and like no one's really taking to it as much as I did. So like to have somebody walk up to me, was like, "Hey man, nice hat." I'm like, no shit, you know.
I know, it's totally like a secret culture kind of thing, right? Definitely.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a secret handshake too?
There are some handshakes out there, but
really?
No. I haven't gotten that deep into mommy verse, but
well, it was Bert and Tom ended up getting some football to make them a designated handshake or whatever. That was a while back, but even his hat, look at his hat right there. Two bears.
I noticed. Two bears hat.
Fucking A, dude. Nice.
Yeah, pretty into podcasts lately in the last couple of years. A whole bunch, but like I haven't been to shows when I usually buy band merch. So listen to podcasts, buy podcast merch.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm with you, man. I got a whole freaking closet full of all kinds of merch. Actually, before we get into music talk, I want to tell you that so it's YMH related, but
okay,
the
I'll go get it.
the
I
last
haven't
couple YMH lives. But yeah, so to get into it, so we met the night you played for Saul.
Yeah.
You had a fucking awesome set. I thought it sounded like
Thanks. Yeah.
perfect, dude. It was so good. And then I
That
was
was cool.
really curious, like knowing Saul, I know that he doesn't really have a band. He's Saul the singer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in meeting you, I'm really interested in like you're like a gun for hire, basically, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if there's
I've
an
been
artist,
for a while.
yeah. So if there's an artist out there who's recording and needs somebody to come lay down some drums, like you're that guy to call, basically, right?
Yeah. One of many in town, but yeah.
Right.
That's
So
kind of yeah. Go ahead.
You're
no,
that
I was
guy.
gonna say, so how does like how do you would you say that you would be more busy that way? Because like how many artists do you work with? Let's start there.
Like currently, that's always the weird question. That changes every year. But currently, right now, I play with my band Funkjoint, Arcana Kings, Johnny Don't. We also have another project called Miles Canyon. I have another band with my buddy Frank called Lutheran. And so I guess that's what, 4, 5?
5?
Yeah, and that's consistently, like right now during the pandemic, those are the things that have kind of continued on still.
Right.
There were like, and I don't want to get into the number. I've never actually counted, but I've played with a lot of people in Saskatoon since I'm 37 this year, and I started playing in town right before my 19th birthday. So it's been almost 20 years of being able to legally do this. And it was my living for a little bit. Like I was just playing drums and
Right.
teaching like that. But for the most part, the whole time I've always kept a job so I can continue to do that.
Yeah.
Since I was, probably about 19. Oh man, this is the problem with this thing. I can start on a story and then it's just going to keep going backwards and backwards and backwards. Like if I were to start when I was in my first band up until now, I would have to say there's probably about 70 plus different projects I've worked with.
Right.
And that's kind of lowballing. I don't really want to go higher than that. It might be more, but that's either being hired out to tour, play a one-off show, put a 3-minute recording down, do a whole album. Like I've done a lot of different things, mainly just playing drums. Sometimes I throw on drummers really can't be the producer, but you throw in enough production ideas into something and you kind of feel like you've been a part of it the whole time. And it's like,
right.
Yeah. And there's most of this I'm doing for like the bands. Like if the music's awesome, then yeah, I'm down. Like if it's not, I'm not going to do it. And I'm always very blunt about it. And that's changed. My musical tastes have changed over the years. And the things that I do have kind of changed with it. And I grew up being a rock drummer. Like when I was 9, I started playing drums. I really got into like the grunge era in the 90s, but came into players late. Like I listened to Weird Al until I was 16. Just like he was my guy, right?
I had the Alapalooza. I think that was the album.
Oh yeah,
the Jurassic Park song. Yeah, I remember having that album.
I think that was my first one. And like I collected soundtracks when I was a kid. I was a soundtrack guy. And like X Games soundtrack got me into like Sepultura and Ministry and Primus and stuff like that. And I must have been like 13 or 14. But my 2 older sisters influenced me like heavily on music, and my parents. Everyone was very musical, but I'm still the only one that actually plays an instrument.
Right.
My dad plays multiple instruments. My grandmother plays piano. She's 87 years old, still plays piano with a broken arm. Like there's just a whole musical aspect to our family. So I was always willing to listen to pretty much anything that anybody popped out at me. And I was encouraged to be like that. So when I got into heavy music, all my friends were like do or die band guys. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, yep, Metallica, fuck Slayer, or like fucking Slayer, fuck Metallica, or like there was always some kind of beef going on, and I was always middle ground. I was like, I don't care, man. Like if it's good, then cool, but if it's not, then whatever. But I would learn stuff based on my friends' suggestions, and that's what kept me going and going until I got to a point where I was learning way more new music than my friends were. I lived in a small town. I grew up in Colonze, so not far from Saskatoon, but
okay,
very small. And everyone listened to country and, you know, the odd Green Day song. But yeah, I ended up getting right into more like new metal when it was coming out. Like not so much the Biscuit, but it was like some Corn, and like Seven Dust really got me. I was like all over Seven Dust. Their drummer was like, yeah, this is crazy, I want to do that. And so that's what I got into. And then it just kind of it faded. Like it faded really fast. Like my love for heavy music was like, I just like the funky heavy music. I don't like the straight ahead blast beat stuff. It was like I liked something with like a groove, and like, and I was like, oh, this is really based off of my sisters. You know, all I listened to was like Whitney Houston, and then Mariah Carey and Brandy, and then it was like Erykah Badu and Lauryn Hill, and they started getting like really into hip hop and the female vocalist end of hip hop. And so I ended up attaching to more of that stuff, the roots, and digging in there and doing it secretly while being in like 3 metal bands for about and touring, you know, like
yeah.
I'd go up to a bass player from a, you know, buddy's band from Montreal and be like, oh yeah, your set was awesome, man, cool. Like, you ever listen to Steely Dan or
or Erykah Badu? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like every once in a while he'd be like, yeah, like, are you fucking serious? And next thing you know, like you're broing down about yacht rock at a metal show, and it's like it kind of, I just secretly did that for years until I found that it was okay. It's okay. I could talk about what I like around metalheads, and I did that for a long time. Like my good friend Chris, he owns the Sound Castle out in Viscount. Me and him had a studio out at my farm for a while. He ran his business there for a good while before he bought the church out in Viscount. So, and we had been in a band for 10 years prior to that. So, yeah, we just worked with each other for a long time, building kind of a future for ourselves. One where he can be an engineer, have a studio, and start a business that way. And I can kind of help that, but I almost wanted a place where bands could stay, like when they're on tour. We had toured so much and stayed on so many couches, and like or so many people's couches, and everyone was so nice to us, and we never really knew how to return the favor ever. It's like, right, we have no money, that's why we're staying here. So it's like, and this isn't the only time we've gone to, you know, Montreal or Ontario where people have done this for us. It's like, if you're ever through Saskatchewan, please come and stay. And we convinced so many people from the East to tour this way just because we had a farm and it was a nice big house, and we as a band were running it as a studio, and they just started coming out, basing tours off wanting to come and check it out.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
So there's so many bands, like I want to shout out like bands like Endost from Montreal, and the guys Great Sabatini. There's like the Arsenian brothers from Montreal. We're like all best friends now, and like I've been to their weddings and shit. And all the guys from Vancouver, like the Ninja Spy guys, they're all brothers, the Parent brothers, and they've all split up doing other things. Like Tim plays for 5 Alarm Funk now, and like Adam plays for Michael Graves from the Misfits. It's like, you know, we were all kids touring around, sleeping on each other's couches, and like everyone's gone off to do like rad stuff. and we all just pushed each other for years in our own spaces, connecting with each other. always pushing each other, being like, are you guys still doing things? Okay, we want to come out, or you guys should come out, or we should do something. And our home base was really like our farm. We had friends in town, but we didn't really play. We just waited until our friends from out of town would come around.
Would come in.
And yeah, and like that was my life for 15 years. Like I went out on the road and would come home and house bands and go back out. It was just, that's all I did. And would try and keep a job when I come home, and then, you know, if not, I'd catch gigs here and there playing with other people because people heard that I was free or something like that. It just, I never knew how it worked. It just, hopefully I could make something work. And actually it wasn't until I was maybe 30 or so is when I thought that I could actually do any of the gigs. Like, hey, I think I might be able to do that now. I just don't know if that guy's going to call me again. That was like 6 years ago. I kind of faked my way through it when I did it, but like, all right. And that's kind of, you know, the thing with Saul. Like, been friends with Saul for years. I've seen him tons of times, and I've seen him in different incarnations of different groups of people. And when he asked Savelle and I to come and sit in with him, I was like, well, of course, absolutely. Like, whenever you ask, I'll be there for sure. And like, that's usually how every interaction I've had with a group happens. It's usually just like, hey, you want to come do this? Like, yeah, sure. And if I don't have the time, or if I'm not really totally into what that person's doing, and then it's like, nah, I can't do it. Saying no sucked for the first time, like to somebody that I knew that I really liked what they were doing. And I have made the mistake a couple times of immediately saying yes to the next thing because of how bad I felt that one time. It was like, okay, next time somebody offers me something, I'm going to take it. I don't care. I'll time it out. Like, I've had stupid things that I've done where I'm kind of putting other people in tight spots just because I want everybody to play. So like, I'm playing, this happened a couple years back. I was playing at the Burning Beard with Funkjoint, and our gig was 7 to 10. And I had to play with a metal band at the Black Cat, but we were slated third out of 4 bands. So that means we were playing at like 10 or 10:30. And I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to transfer my shit. So I talked to one of the other bands, see if we can trade so I can play second. And our set's only 25 minutes long, and I got a half-hour break in between sets at the Burning Beard. So I timed it so I can get over there at like 8 o'clock, play that set, run back to hit at 8:30 over here. And then as soon as I'm done there, I do the opening slot of 3 bands at Amigos at 10:30.
Holy shit, dude. And
like, that's, it's not the only time that's happened. Like, same thing. I have a full nighter at Bud's, but I'm headlining at Amigos. So at some point, I got to make sure the other bands know that, okay, I have a break at 12:30 to 1, and that's our set time. And I realized that, okay, the guys don't want to play just a half an hour. They want to do 45. So I got to make sure that a friend of mine is going to be at the show, not completely wasted at 1 o'clock, so he can sit in for 15 minutes. So when I come back, and like, you know, that's why you try and stay friends with everybody, but that never happens.
Wow, that's intense. Is it, so have you been, like, I know the pandemic and everything, but lately, let's start from, I guess, this summer. Have you been like pretty consistently busy with like recording and Funkjoint?
Mainly Funkjoint stuff was this summer. Like, everything slowed down, man. Like, my life was kind of in a crazy upswing of touring with the Arcana Kings. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that band. We're kind of based out of Saskatchewan, but the main guys live in Nelson.
Okay.
And yeah, our bass player's in Regina. Me and the guitar player are in Saskatoon. But we kind of play everywhere and all over the place. I just started with them a little while back, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, or a year and a half before the pandemic, we'll say. So yeah, whatever amount of time that is. And the upswing of touring was really starting, and that's why I kind of joined the band, because I was available to do so. And
Right.
let's just keep on this upswing. So like the day of the pandemic, March 15th, that was the end of our Saskatchewan leg of Arts Board tour, or Saskatchewan Arts Board tour. We had 26 shows, 23 or 26 shows in Saskatchewan booked by the Sask Arts Board. And we played all small towns all over Saskatchewan the winter of 2019, 2020. Like November, we had 2 weeks, and then February, we had another 2 weeks, and then March, we had another like 10 days. And it's all in Saskatchewan. It was
nice.
Yeah, it was amazing. And never, like, I think we played Saskatoon at the end of it or something. I don't know. But we finished all this stuff off, and then we were going down for our yearly gig in Vegas on Fremont Street. So the band is like fronted by a guy named Johnny McQuaig. He's a bagpiper, like he's rock and roll bagpipe kind of. Right. It's a pretty badass band. Like everything's super fun. Like people just get shitty and have a great time. Like some of those crowds, man. Like when you got like a bagpipe, like AC/DC rock band, like the crowd is just insane. Like
yes,
it's nuts. We did a Rider halftime show. My first gig with them was a halftime show at the Western Final on 2019.
I think I saw that picture on
2018. That's what
you have that photo on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my first gig with them.
Hell yeah, dude. How was that for you?
I got to play for auxiliary percussion because I was still learning the songs, and they wanted the original drummer to continue play. He wanted to have that experience, right? So we had both drummers on stage. It was pretty rad. I was having so much fun. It was minus 21. It's like, I broke like every cymbal that I brought up there. It was all so cold. They all like broke and snapped. And it was like, yeah, don't give a shit. It was like, jumping around. But then after that, like, yeah, we went and did this big Vegas gig. And they'd been doing it. I think they'd done it 6 times or 7 times. And you go up to Fremont Street, you play on one of the stages there. I don't know if you've ever been to Vegas, but
I haven't.
It's basically set up right across the road from the Golden Nugget. And like the cowboy with the arm, you ever seen the?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's right across the street from that. So like that's what we look at from the stage. And I was just in awe. Like I can't believe I'm playing in Vegas. This is kind of crazy. And because it's St. Patrick's, we get hired for St. Patrick's Day weekend every year because of the bagpipe thing. They want as much stuff as you can. And like, there's at any given moment, there's like 4,000 or 5,000 drunk people in green, like everywhere, just flowing in front of you. Sometimes they stop, but it's just constant the whole weekend. And I'd never played a gig like that. Never met musicians that have done stuff like that. That was really cool to meet guys that did what I've been doing in Saskatoon in Vegas.
Right.
And they all have like $1 million houses and raising kids and stuff. And like, they're not doing that great as far as they can figure, right? But like the one guy, like awesome drummer, he plays with like two or three different bands on Fremont Street, had that gig for years. And his kid has never left. It's never left. They always stays on this thing. And if they need to move it to a different stage, they just forklift it off the stage and roll it down the street. And I was like, fuck, man, what a gig, dude. Like, you can just add stuff to your kit and just bring it out to the street. And like, guy makes probably $1,000 a day at just playing as a drummer, like American. God. Like, it's stupid. Like, and you do this every day a week.
And you don't have to haul your shit around?
No, other people do it for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, for that kind of a gig, I was like, well, this is what I've always been practicing for. I've always wanted to do something like that, where I'm just kind of there, put me into a situation, I'll do it. Like, doesn't matter the music. Just, that's why I've always gone from, this end of the spectrum to the other. It's like, well, what if somebody calls?
Mm-hmm.
And
well, Yeah, that's like I love that you do that, because it's like you're a legitimate drummer, right? You're not just a drummer for the band or a specific band. You are a drummer. Like you need me, I'll be there.
You can do it all.
Fucking
and
hate
it's
it.
weird.
I love that.
I'll correct you there though, but I've been taught this several times by my drum teachers. I'm a musician. It's to get out of the mindset of being a drummer. It's like I'm hopefully people aren't there for me. I'm just there to assist the music. So I'm a musician first. I do play drums.
I love that. I love it. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
But so for me, for when Saul calls you and says, "Hey, can you play for me?" What happens? How much time do you need to play through those songs and master them?
Yeah, so good question. I'm usually pretty anxious. Like as soon as somebody asks me something and I agree to it, everything's solid. We've gotten all the business things done in conversation prior. And then, okay, send me something. It's like, oh, I'll get it to you the next day. And I'm sitting there like,
no.
It'd be nice if we can get on this today. And so if it doesn't happen right away, it's like, I start freaking out a little bit, but it's usually all for naught. My process changed in the last like maybe 3 or 4 years. I kind of understood how I needed to do things a lot better. Before, what I would do was just access the music. I would listen through it and I would chart it out on a piece of paper, just in my own way of thinking. It's like, okay, that's an intro, riff 1. And then if something changes, I'll call that riff 2. And I'll have no reason to anything. I'm just following the song, not listening to a bloody thing. And then I'll go back and listen to the song again and look at what I just wrote. And then I start memorizing little parts of the song. And then I'll sit down and play it. I was like, okay, I can look at that piece of paper and kind of get through the song. And now it's more of just taking mental note in the exact same way. So I'll just listen to something a couple times, usually once or twice through. Sometimes halfway through the song, I kind of get the gist of where it's going, other than maybe an outro or something like that. But now it's cut down to like a couple listens or just the first couple seconds. Like if it's like a hip hop tune and you hear a change, it's like, oh, they might change later on in the song. But if you haven't heard a change in the first 2 minutes, it's most likely not going to change at the end of the song. It's still that boom, 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 boom. It's like, okay, all right, that's all I need. I can do that. And
that's 3.5 minutes right there.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes that you can't overthink past that before you go and jam. So like once you get to the jam, now we got to figure out how we're doing whatever this was as a recording, because sometimes the artist is just like, oh yeah, man, that was just a loose idea. I want you to do something different. It's like, I played the beat on the recording. Oh, you can put your own flavor on it. Like, well, I'm playing the digital part, so that's my own. Like, there's a conversation that needs to happen to really solidify things. So I can't sit there and say, okay, the recording is exactly the way it is, because I've dealt with that too many times where it isn't. So I'm always going in loosely, listening to what the guy or girl is saying. They're just like, okay, should be like this, or I'm looking for this type of a feeling. Like, great, I can attach to that. I'll just follow along. And it usually turns out good. And I'm really, surprised that I don't think about like kick, snare, put this here. There's like any, I don't think about that so much anymore. I don't know why. That just kind of happens.
Well,
I guess.
I think that's the same for every musician. If you play the instrument long enough, it becomes second nature, and you don't have to think about what you're doing.
Yeah,
it's just the sound that it makes, and you know what to do to make it make that sound.
So do you maybe think, and I've always had this question for like drummers, right? Musicians, or musicians that play the drums. Do you guys do you think in like numbers when you're listening to music? Do you think like 4/3 or 4/2s or anything like that, or not at all?
Like, to be honest, I don't like, if all that is a language to speak to other musicians. I've been teaching drums for years. I've taken drum lessons for a while. When I grew up, like Brad King, he's a local drummer. He's just such a wealth of knowledge. To have a guy like that in Saskatoon and to be teaching kids, like when I was a kid, and a lot of the other guys that are really good around town, we all grew up going to him. We all met him,
Right.
met each other taking lessons from him.
Yeah.
So he's the guy that kind of showed us all, like, you know, there's a much bigger language out here. And to converse with another guy and being like, oh, do you know what time signature that's in? It's just like, really? Like, yeah, sure. If you want to count it out, sure. But like, otherwise you can just like attach to it. Like if you just attach to it and not think about the numbers, you're playing music. If you're thinking in numbers, it's like, holy crap. Like that's gotta be really hard. That's counting the yellow lines on a highway. Like,
yeah. That's, you know, I've always been curious about that, because I've heard like drummers talking about counting it out and counting the numbers, and I'm like, holy fucks. And that it kind of like, it just got me thinking in a different way. Like, is that how they see what a song is? You know,
to understand certain things and to learn, you have to have a good idea of what the numbers mean and how the cycle of everything. Everything's in a cycle, especially with music, time, the world, like everything's circular. So like with that, and you have a good understanding of what 4, 5, 6, and 7 feel like, nothing is past that. It's just, then you subdivide. So that I'm getting into music lesson stuff here now, but it's way easier to think of playing in 5 as a grouping of 2 and a grouping of 3. You know, like it's as easy as that. Or playing in 7, 8 is a grouping of 4 and a grouping of 3, or however you want to decide it. And it's only to vocalize that to somebody else while you're writing or trying to learn something. Once you've learned it, it should never be spoken of again. Yeah. It's the last thing, and it shouldn't be a part of anything. Because then you're, as I like to say it, it's like then you're playing on stage with 4 other people. You're not in a band. Yeah. You know, like you're in your head. Like that's why I don't like saying like I'm a drummer. It's like, no, I'm a musician playing in this band. Because otherwise, if there's like, you know, here's the thing with jamming with new people and understanding their vibe. Like if I've played in so many metal bands and it hit hard. I love doing that type of stuff, but I can't go play with Saul and do that. Right. Because then I'm a drummer, that drummer behind the rest of the band who's just being him, right? Yeah. He's doing his thing. And it's like, that sucks. Like you have to adapt to every single situation that you're in. So like you got to be a part of the group, and like if you're just that guy, you can hear it, you can see it. Yeah. And it's like I've seen it. It sucks. It sucks to watch.
Dude, it's like that there's that meme video where the drummer it's like what is it? Comes out and then he's a metal drummer in a wedding band or whatever, and he goes to town on the kids on a regular, you know, wedding band kind of song. It's funny.
It's all the arms and everything. Oh yeah. The drummer at the wrong gig. Yeah, he's that's crazy.
Yeah. I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen that. I saw that one where there was that I fucking forget the name of him. There's that guy in that costume.
The Kool-Aid guy.
It kind of looks like the Kool-Aid guy, but there's like some little kid thing going off, and he just goes to town.
That
was pretty
hilarious. Cool. Yeah, there's the drummer stigma stuff and making fun of drummers, I think is just like the best thing ever. And like I don't know, this is kind of a side note, but like one of like I guess all of the things that I've done playing music have been pretty fucking cool. Like I gotta say, the musicians that I've played with are some of the best I've even heard before. Like, you know, and like just to know some of these people and to see where they've gone with things, or maybe what they've chosen not to play music anymore, still being able to have played with some of the greats, I would have to say, from Saskatoon was like a pinnacle of my life. I'm not going to name everybody because I don't want to leave anybody else out, but there's been 20 years of players that I've kind of sought out and tried to play with and eventually got to either jam or record with or play a show. And it's just been like, holy shit. But then I hit this level where it's like, okay, I want to travel outside of the country. And all of a sudden that started happening. I got asked to do a gig to go play South by Southwest in Austin. And it was just like, oh yeah. Like, so I did, and it was fucking awesome. I had a great time, met some amazing people, changed my life. And then eventually joined a band that started taking me to places like Vegas. And I stopped earlier and kind of diverted like I do, but we were going to go to Vegas again as COVID hit. So our whole Saskatchewan tour stopped on March 15th, and we were in Indian Head, Saskatchewan. Played the best show I've ever played in anywhere other than that Rider gig. Indian Head, Saskatchewan at that Grand Theater is one of the coolest places a band can play in this province. Like, hands down. It was like, what? What? Like,
this is here?
What is this? Like, and there's a bar behind the stage, and like, it's just an old theater. It's like 100 years old. The whole town like always goes to anything that they do to save the building. And it's just like, this was a crazy rock show. And like, everyone knew that COVID was going to shut things down like the next day. So it was like a end of the fucking world party. It was the craziest thing. And the next morning, we were supposed to take off on a plane to Vegas to go do our thing. But we knew 3 days prior that the borders were going to be closed. And if we left, we would have been stuck. And so that tour got canceled 3 days prior. We were just like, shit. Like, so the next morning we woke up from Indian Head and drove home, and we're like, I should be in Vegas right now doing sound check. And I'm sitting on my couch at home. It's like hungover. It's like, shit. So that was kind of like, oh, okay, this is getting real fast. And then it got even more real where it's like, okay, this isn't going to change. The rest of our touring plans are out the fucking window. So that meant our tour to Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, that was eventually going to move into possibilities of going to like India and East Asia, like in June of that year. It was all there. And we were going to play an award show in Taiwan that was going to be like, you know, on TV in China and all this, mainland China. Just like, what the, I didn't know what we were about to do. It was like, this is just crazy. I don't like, okay, we're going to go do this. And then all of a sudden it gets shut down. Like, oh, whoa, that's heavy. So like, we're not going to be able to do this for like a fucking while. Like, I better pit in and go to work and like stop thinking about being on the road all the time. And that's basically, I had to just dive into work. And I do stonemason. So
well, yeah, and I've saw your videos of that too. Is that your house that you're working on, or just a client?
Yeah, it's for a builder. I won't name the builder either, but we've been doing that for about 7 years, or this would be my 7th year, I think. Right. Yeah. So it's probably the funnest trade job I've had because I get to work by myself and listen to podcasts all day. It's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, that'd be fun. Okay, so now that like COVID's kind of eased up, I guess, if you want to say that. I'm not sure how to word that, but I mean, shit's happening now. You know what I mean? Yep. So is there like any of those kind of plans coming back to the light of day now that shit's like coming up again?
Yeah, 2022 has opened up a lot for touring. We're still going to see, obviously, what happens by March, April. Things might change again.
Right.
But this is more solid than some of the things that were attempted to be booked last year. This seems a little bit more promising. 2022, it looks like we might go back to Vegas 2022. So we're crossing our fingers on that. That's still up in the air, but that's looking like that's going to happen. And that's with Arcana Kings. I think we're also playing like Breakout West, and I think we're doing like the Sask Winter Games in February or something like that.
Okay.
Down in Regina. So there's like an after party or something that we're doing. And yeah, we've got some Saskatchewan and Alberta dates for February, March, leading into going to Vegas again. So
Freaking rights, dude.
yeah, so that's looking good. And then we'll see how everything moves after that. That band really wants to get out east and go down south a lot more next year. But again, that's up in the air. We'll see if it actually happens down the road. We all hope it is going to, because we've been sitting at home for 2 years.
Yeah.
But it'll be cool to kind of restart like exactly 2 years later to the day with the same group of guys, because we're gonna go out and do Coaldale, Alberta, and then Indian Head, and then leave for Vegas. So we're kind of redoing exactly what we did.
Don't jinx it.
Just to get that feeling back. Yeah.
That's awesome though. I love
it's gonna be cool.
Fucking love that shit.
Muse Canada is a new arts and entertainment media connection and support network. Skip the algorithm of social media and connect with other entertainment professionals across Canada. Sign up today for only $5 a month, but if you use promo code FunkyMoose2021, you get 10% off.
Yeah, so like, yeah, I can talk for literally ever about crazy shit, but the one thing I wanted to say was I've done a lot of that music stuff, and the one highlight of my life happened January 2020. Right after a tour, went to Calgary to meet up with my buddy. I did a tour. We did Jasper and Banff. That was like a weekend. We were doing Jasper and then Banff. And then I took 3 days to myself in Calgary and visited some friends. And then a friend from Saskatoon was coming to pick me up on the Thursday, and we were going to Kill Tony, because Kill Tony was in Calgary. And I was like, we're such big Kill Tony fans. It was like, we're fucking going. And I made it work so I was still out there. My buddy could come and pick me up and whatnot. So we ended up going to Kill Tony, and I got on. And so I'm on the Calgary episode. And
I totally saw that. I was telling Mark before you came on, I was like, I gotta ask him about that, dude. That's fucking kick-ass.
You actually showed me. He's like,
I did show you that.
Look,
right?
Graham was on Kill Tony.
Mark has no idea. He doesn't know what that is or who that is, and doesn't care. But I thought that was sweet.
And he was, holy fuck. Joel, I mean, not that he was starstruck, but it was like, look, we're gonna have this guy on the show.
No, it wasn't. I was like legitimate. I was impressed. I was like, holy fuck, he made it on. Like, I was like, hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, like it is a complete mind fuck. So I've never. Some of my close friends know exactly what happened, especially the guys that I was there with.
So go back, take a few steps back. Like, who's Kill Tony and why?
So okay, so
a big deal?
Kill Tony is a lot. Yeah, it's he's a comedian, Tony Hinchcliffe.
Yep.
And there's like Red Band. There's like a bunch of them. There's Red Band used to be like, he was there when Joe Rogan started his podcast. He's like the original.
He started it, yeah.
Like it was that the Joe Rogan podcast started because of Red Band. Okay. So he's on there too. And there's like 4 or 5 of them. They'll have like a guest comedian on there. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they like, you basically go there. It's a live venue and you'll put your name in a hat and he'll call you up. If your name gets picked, you come up for a minute, you tell jokes for a minute or whatever. And then they basically roast you, right? For that minute kind of thing. That's what it is. That's the show. That's the podcast, right?
Yeah.
And he made it on there with your drums. Were those your drums or?
No. So they have a band. They have like Jeremiah Watkins, Joel Berg, Joel Jimenez, and Chroma Chris. They're all like the Kill Tony band, and they're all comedians. I don't know. Chris wasn't a comedian, but he is funny. They're all comedians from the Comedy Store. This is like an LA thing where it started, right? And they're all musicians, and they would, put together this little band to be the backing band for the podcast. And they would just shoot in with like little commentary the whole time. And they're hilarious. They would dress up for every gig, like in different costumes. And they were just as much part of the show as anything else. Like the Kill Tony band was fucking hilarious. And all of them were individually amazing comedians. So them coming on tour was really interesting because they go to all these different cities And what had originally happened in LA, I believe, was a guy that was on stage, obviously shitty comedian. They're making fun of him. They're like, can you do anything? I can play the drums. And so that turned out, he's like, well, maybe we're going to get, fucking Mexican drum off because Joel Berg's Mexican. So they we're going to have a Mexican drum off. They put the guy on stage to play drums and the crowd claps. And then Joel Berg goes up there and basically like roasts him with his drums. Like it is the first time I saw it, I was like, this is the funniest thing for a drummer to do. It's like this guy is literally just playing like punk licks and giving you the finger. It's like he's like one of the funniest drummers I'd ever seen. It was like, and it's because he can do things, but he's being such a dickhead about it. It was so funny. So like it was a part of the show that I thought was really great, and like I wanted to get onto the show. I've never tried stand up before ever. And that was like a thing when we were going. It's like, you gonna sign up? It's like, well, hell yeah, that's why we're here, man. Like, we're totally signing up. If you don't have anything prepared, you're gonna look like a dick, and it's gonna be hilarious. So like, that was the whole thing. I wanted to get called, like, if I got on stage, I wanted Joel Berg to call me an idiot, because that was like a thing that you'd hear him call basically everybody. Oh, shut up, you idiot! It was like, yeah. Like, if I get on stage, I want Joel Berg to call me an idiot. Like, that was basically it, right? So this whole time I was in Calgary, I was having a good time with some of my friends. I was staying up late and being all crazy. And I got kicked out of my Airbnb at 10:30 in the morning on the day of Kill Tony. So I had 9 hours to walk around Calgary with nothing to do. People are at work. My friend isn't coming in from Saskatoon yet, and I got to wait around until the show. So I'm like literally walking up and down 17th Ave with my luggage, and it's cold out. So it's like full on, 4 layers, pants, like everything, just trying to figure out something to do. And like, I had nothing to do. It's like, I had some weed, and, it's like, I don't know, just walk around parks. So I walked, I think it was like 30,000 steps all that day. It was just like, what the hell? And I get to a bar where I'm like, okay, buddy's going to be here in like an hour. At least I'll just go have a meal. So I sit down, having a meal, set one of my bags down next to me, and I'm looking through with my bag, and I'm like, oh shit, I got like a gram of mushrooms in my bag. I'm like, it's a comedy show. It'll be fun. So I dip some of the mushrooms in, and I have a drink, and I eat my food. And then my buddy's like, I'm going to be an hour. I'm like, I already been here for an hour. Like, holy shit. Okay, so pinch a little bit more mushrooms. I'm not really thinking too straight at this point. I get picked up. We end up going out to his sister's place before the gig. We make it to the gig like right on time. And I'm getting pretty giggly. Like, I'm having a good giggle. And I'm looking at my friend. I was just like, I still got like a little bit of dust left. You want this? He's like, oh shit, sure. So he has a little bit. I finish it off, just kind of pup. We just finished smoking a big fat joint. We're like, wow. We go in. There's nobody in line because the show's about to start. And I'm like, oh shit. So I'm running in, and my buddy's like, did you sign up? I was like, oh shit. So I go up. I was the very last person to sign up, like the last person. And I'm thinking that's why I got picked. It must have ended up somewhere near the top because I was one of the last. So anybody watching this is a Kill Tony fan, whoever goes to Kill Tony, make sure to sign up last because you'll most likely get picked. So I got called like 4 comics in, or 3 or 4 comics in. I was having a great time. I had now about 2 big pitchers of vodka. Like, I was on my second one at that show, and about a gram of mushrooms. I was having a great time. And then I'm sitting there laughing, and my name gets called, and my buddy just bang hits me right in the chest. I'm like, what? He's like, they just got you. I'm like, oh no. Oh, so I walked up on stage just like, oh, okay. All right. So I said what I said, and it was like, I don't even know why I said that. Like, I was good. I had like a minute of jokes, but it just like, yeah. I'll tell this story. This will be funny. And it was just kind of stopped. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, I was way less than a minute. That was fucked up. And I looked over, I was like, I actually just did that. I feel pretty fucking good. Like, that wasn't that hard. Like, sweet. And like, then Tony looks at me and I'm just like, okay, I think I know how to like get through this question and answer period without really looking like a dick. And he's and he starts making fun of my belly. And I was like, yeah, something about being on the road so long. And he said, well, doing what? And I was like, oh, I'm a session drummer. And then immediately the whole crowd gets what is going to happen. It's going to be a Mexican drum off. And like the whole time we were going to the show, we just thought it was Tony and Red Band, because we didn't know that Jeremiah and Joel were going to cross the border and come to Canada. Like, we didn't think that was going to happen.
Right.
So it was like, holy shit. All of a sudden this opportunity shows up. I'm like, holy fuck, I'm doing this. So like I get behind the seat and I'm like, holy shit, this thing is set up so small. Joel is like small. And it's like so tight in. So I had this whole idea of I was going to stick my hand to my pants and like hold the drumstick from between my fly and do like a fucking like gravity blast. So it looks like I'm wanking it. And like I'd practiced it. Like I knew what I was going to do. But as soon as I reached down, I was like, oh no, I wasn't wearing the right pants. So I you can see I'm kind of turned to the right, and I go and like reach towards my pants, and this buckle just unclips and my pants are about to fall down. I'm like, okay, I can't do that. Shit, what am I going to do? So then I figure I'm going to do the whole gravity blast underneath my leg. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? Oh shit, I don't want to put my shoes on his drums. So I take my shoes off. And as soon as I do that, holy fuck, did my feet stink. Like, out of control. Like, I have a pretty nasty funk on me normally, but like that was like, oh my God, that's embarrassing. I got to put my shoes back on. It's like, so I'm kind of meandering behind the kit just in a weird way. And I start doing stuff and whatever, and I finish. I was like, just get me out of here. Like, so he's like, don't go anywhere. And I sat on the front. Joel Berg comes out in the Borat swimsuit with dildos on his head, and it's just, he brings out the elusive purple dildo and he hits me with it, and it was just like, oh my God. He's like, you fucking idiot. I was like, yes. Ah! That's why I'm here. This is the best. So like, yeah, that was like one of the biggest achievements of my life. And then he like barrel rolled into me and stuck his asshole on my nose.
Oh man.
Like it's like kind of on camera, but he like rolls into me while I'm sitting down, and it like literally he teabagged me, put his butthole like right on the tip of my nose.
Oh, so funny, dude.
Yeah,
so
people in the front row are all just like, oh man. So then I had to sit there and watch him do the whole thing, and it was hilarious. And some people, everybody after the show, like I'm walking out of the show, like, oh man, you fucking killed it, you won. And I'm like, what? Like, I forgot that I even did it. Like, I was having a great time with my friends, and it was just like, yeah, it was cool. I was riding high, but like I had no idea what just happened. And then it started coming out online. I was like, oh, I should get ahead of this and just show this to my parents now.
What did they say when they saw it?
Oh, they know my sense of humor. They were like, hey, that's cool. They don't know. Nobody knows that I was high on mushrooms though. And I've been trying to figure out a way to tell somebody in that camp. So if I ever do go to Austin, which I really want to, I love that place because they're in Austin now, and I want to go to a Kill Tony show and sign up again and somehow see if I can redeem myself not high on mushrooms.
Fucking A, there's the clip. Boom. That's the clip. We'll send it to them.
Yeah. Sweet.
Fuck yeah, dude. Yeah, I saw that. Awesome. I think I didn't see the full episode. I just saw whatever clip you put on IG, I think.
Oh man, that's the Sam Walker episode.
All right.
Yeah, it's the Calgary episode. And then somebody sent me, they did like a a Kill Tony road stories thing called Roadkill. It's just like a little 20-minute short of it was actually their tour to Calgary, and there's a lot of interviews with Jeremiah and Tony and shit. And me and my buddies are like in the handshake line in the video, like we're
Oh, nice.
yeah. And my other buddy sent it to me. He's like, "Hey man, you made it into this video too." It's like, oh, fucking right. But yeah, it's really cool because they were all so fucking nice to me afterwards. Like we're waiting in line, and I was just like, "Hey, Jeremiah." He looked at me. He's like, "Holy fuck, dude." He's like, "That was unreal." I'm like, "What?" And Joel's like, "Man, you're fucking awesome. Like, that was really good. I still fucking kicked your ass." I was like, "Yes." It's like, I just wanted to get called an idiot. Oh yeah, and like Tony was super nice. He was like, "Man, you got to sign up again. I never said anything about your comedy because it was shitty." I was like, "Awesome, perfect. That's what I wanted to know." He's like, "Yeah, Red Band can't tell jokes that bad." And then they started ripping on each other. It was like, this is hilarious. And they wanted to stick around and play pool, and we wanted to like buy them drinks and shit. So there's like, they're trying to get everybody out,
Right.
shut the place down so they can just sit and play pool. But yeah, that was such a neat experience, especially them being in Calgary and really catching some seriously talented comedians from Calgary. And like that's one of the reasons why I felt like a dink was because like there's some serious dudes in that crowd that all signed up. And like I'm the asshole that went in there and did what I did. And like I found out afterwards is like, oh man, like the Sam Walker, and there's another guy named Sam Benty. They're both amazing comedians that were on that show, and like super funny. And Sam Walker is still to this day, he's one of the funniest comedians I've ever seen. And he got pretty big after that. He's been down to Austin. I think he flew down to Austin to go be on the show. He can be on the show whenever he wants. So he kind of connected with them really well because he's a different kind of funny. It's like, it's troubling.
I love that stuff.
Yeah,
Hells
really
yeah.
Dangerous. Yeah, awesome. I don't know what time it is. We could fucking talk forever.
It's 7:35. You're in the studio at 8 tonight?
Yeah, I go over to jam with Funkjoint here usually every Tuesday at 8. So and we have a show this weekend.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, so this episode's gonna go up in a week from Monday, so in about 2 weeks or whatever. But cool. I want to touch a little bit more on Funkjoint, if that's okay. So is Funkjoint like the name of the studio, or is that the name of the band?
It started off as the name of Savellam's studio, and then the band just turned into us representing his studio, which was just, you know, his work site, you know, like, so it's just our jam space essentially. Savellam and I started playing together many years ago when he moved to town with a different group, and I got him in playing with Johnny Don't. We started touring together, and we've been friends for years, kind of just on the side of other bands that we would play with. We would jam with each other and write you know, little weird jazzy jams, and he always would record things, and it was like an outlet for us to kind of come up with different things that we weren't playing live with anybody else. We've tried to start a group of people, which consisted of some friends, and actually they're all kind of scattered around now too, but we eventually solidified on the idea that we were going to go out and play where acoustic gigs would play. You know, when there's two people doing an acoustic gig, why can't we go in with a small drum set and a piano? And like, maybe we can change the dynamic of that and bring different type of stuff to these smaller venues. So that's originally what we did. And we got a house gig at the Burning Beard when it was open, where we played every Tuesday, played for 3 hours every Tuesday, just the two of us. And we would have friends that would come over for beers after work or whatever. And every once in a while, someone would sit in, and we'd be like, "Hey, come back next week. You know, tell us what you want to play, and we'll play that with you." Like, it kind of just started like that. So our friend Steve Fisher, who used to work at Long McQuaid, he actually moved to Vancouver. he was the first one to kind of join the two of us. And then we played as a 3-piece for a while, and we knew we wanted horn players because the music all had horns in it already. And we were fans of horn players in town. So we had asked, you know, people and friends, hey, do you want to come and jam? And next thing you know, our friend Adam started to come and play with us. And then he brought his friend Nathan in to play with us as well. So that kind of solidified the whole group. And as we've been going, it's like grassroots from 2 people up to 5 people. It just grew naturally as a thing. And that's how the music starts. We just show up, and sometimes jams just happen. It's recorded. We'll listen to it. It's like, hey, let's call that something and play it again. That's literally how a lot of it's written. That's and there is not a lot of focus on vocals. So we want to kind of stick to instrumental ideas. We have no problems writing for other people for vocal stuff. All of us are very capable of, you know, being a backing band for a pop band if we wanted to. Like,
right.
It's just, we have this outlet where we can go and piss around, and no one's ideas are ever shot down. Like, it's just a very open, fun group of guys to be around. And we've applied to the right festivals and applied to all this stuff just because we want to be able to play in front of people. And before COVID, we had applied for like Ness Creek and Jazz Fest and all this stuff, and we got accepted. And then COVID happened, and we didn't get to do it. I was like, oh. So we did get a lot of opportunities during COVID. We did something for SaskTel Max, did a SaskTel Jazz Fest thing last December in 2020, like about a year ago. And then actually the whole year since then has just been preparing to recording, doing gigs here and there, and then preparing for the summertime where we did have a sling of gigs. And yeah, and now this last one at the basement's kind of just a nice culmination to the year. And yeah, it's super fun. Like, never been in a group where, you know, if somebody doesn't come to jam, they're like kind of pretty pissed about it and like feel really bad. Where, you know, like that doesn't happen all the time. It's usually like someone's kind of like, oh, sorry guys, I can't make it tonight, I gotta do something. Yeah. And it's like, oh fuck dude, like, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't come. And it's like, ah, and it's like you kind of feel like you're missing out on something if you're not there. So
right, it sounds like you would be. Like what you guys are doing, I don't hear of that happening very frequently.
Yeah, like we're fans.
Like I don't know anybody else who's doing that.
Yeah, there's a big scene of like jam bands and jam funk bands and all this cool stuff in the States that like we listen to all this stuff and like it just kind of gets thrown in the mix, and we're like backlogged about 50 songs that we all want to cover but we still want to keep writing, and it's like what do? We want to play the songs that we love because we can't. It's just a matter of getting the time, and
yeah,
so we keep adding more stuff to the list, and it's just, yeah, it's super fun.
We will let you go to the studio. I want you to know that I appreciate the shit out of you, man. I love and respect what it is that you're doing, and you are part of the family now. So I want you to come back. You're coming back. You'll be back.
Yeah.
Anytime, man. Anytime you want to come on and just shoot the shit or promote something, man, just hit us up, dude. You're more than welcome.
Dude. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, you guys. Like this is exciting for me. I'm glad I got to just spew a little bit. That was fun.
That's all this is, dude. We're just hanging tight here.
We don't want to be talking.
I love it. I love it when I don't have to talk.
Yeah.
So you're one of my favorite guests. When I just get to sit here and listen, it's perfect, dude.
Good time. Cool, man. Yeah, it was a great time. Great time.
All right. So thanks again. We'll let everybody at home go. Thanks you guys for tuning in.
Adios.
Now, Graham, sure, get back there. Graham, just to let you know, now it's a drum solo versus a drum solo. I don't know how much you listen to the show because we've seen this before. We've had people, you know, have their friend who plays drums. They bring their friend and they say, look, I'll help you with 60 seconds. All you have to do is fucking nothing. Just talk about like jerking off and shitting at the same time, and then you end up doing it. But one thing that a lot of these people, like, I don't know how much you pay attention to the show, because not only is it about a drum solo, it's also about comedic effect, going for it, utilizing any tricks you have up your sleeve or anything like that. Because I'll tell you right now, all time in Mexican drum offs, Joel Jimenez is undefeated all time. He's never been beaten before, not in Australia, not in America, not in Europe. He's all-time undefeated. However, if you win, you are the new drummer of Kill Tony. You have to be in Los Angeles this Monday for our next episode with Doug Benson and a big top secret guest who is, I will just say this, a bucket list guest on the Kill Tony's history. It's going to be a massive episode for us, and if you win this drum off here at the Hotel Blackfoot, you will be the new drummer of Kill Tony. That means you also have to get ready to keep going on that road, because we're going to Vancouver, Kill Tony East, La Jolla, Ventura, Boston, and Austin. So if you think you're pregnant now, you're going to be looking like you're going to have triplets by the time March comes around. But before we do this, let's check in with Prince Harry.
Yes, he will also be having sex with me later tonight as my wife. You will be the new Meghan Markle.
It's going to be Prince Harry meets Prince Scary over here. So here we go. With no further ado, this is a Mexican drum off, and this is the defender, Graham Templeman. He's underneath his leg right now. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Underneath his leg. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This could be one of the greatest contenders of all time.